This episode of our podcast is brought to you by Dulaban Insurance. If you live in Ontario, Canada, and are looking for the best price and coverage for your Tesla, give Dulaban a call at 1-855-385-4226 or visit their website at dulabaninsurance.com/Tesla. There we go. We all speak in the French now. And you can conjugate it too.
You can.
Wonderful. Well, everybody, welcome back. Welcome to the perfect intro to the podcast. A little bit of French thrown in for good measure. Welcome, everybody, to the Tesla Owners Online podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Page. I'm joined by Ian Pavelko and Eric Camacho. Guys, how you doing again, as usual?
Good evening. Doing fine. How are you, gentlemen?
Hello, world.
Hello, world. Programmer's first words. Lovely week. We got a lot to cover. Yeah. Obviously, Ian's in his place, and I'm at my place, and it is what it is. But, hey, the show has got to keep going. I want to lead off with, let's talk about the price changes, obviously, because, you know, earlier when was it here? What's today? The 18th. So 2 days ago, Tesla did a big change-up, obviously, with their pricing. So got a little bit of a chart here. I might put it in post for some of you guys who are watching the podcast because I didn't have anything prepared for that. But, boy, a lot has changed here. So the first things first is before they had it on their list here, the standard range of the car was priced at $35,400. It's now gone off the list. Don't even know if it's off menu anymore. It seems to be gone completely. So standard range dropped $900. It was $39,900. Now it's $39,000. Long range, nowhere to be seen. It's gone. Now they have all-wheel drive, which was priced at $49,900 before. It's now $48,000. So, you know, almost a $2,000 price drop. The big one, though, of course, is the Performance Model 3, which was priced at $59,900. Now it's dropped to $55,000. Although, there's a caveat here. You can actually get it cheaper because the Performance Model 3 comes with the standard 20-inch wheels, and you can order the 18-inch off menu, and I think the discount is like $5,000. So you can get this car for just under 50 grand US before you add any options. I mean,
well,
yeah,
I will say though, in that vein, you're basically getting a dual motor.
Yeah,
correct. Well,
if you're stripping down that much, it's essentially a dual motor Model 3, essentially.
Yeah, but still a good deal. I mean, it was
a
lot more before. Actually, matter of fact, I'm actually considering it myself.
Hey, top speed, 162 miles an hour.
Nothing wrong with that, although I don't, acceleration's fun. Legally, you can't drive anywhere at those kind of speeds on roads, so top speed doesn't really matter at the end
Not
of the
here
day.
Anyway.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
In Germany, you can.
Ian's like, I know a couple places.
No doubt.
Actually, in a couple of weeks, I'll be going to one of them, but it's not on the roads.
So if you're in the market for a Model 3, the best deal right now, if you really want performance, obviously is the Performance Model 3. It's a great value, I think.
I should add for all my friends here in Quebec, there's another substantial piece of news because the Canadian price has dropped to $74,900. That means the car is now eligible again for the full $8,000 rebate in Quebec. So not only
your MSRP cap is what, 75?
It's exactly 75, and I think that they did that very intentionally here, as they brought it just $100 under the limit. So now it qualifies. So not only did the price of the car drop about, what was it before? It was 81, 82. So it's dropped to about $6,000, and you get an additional $5,000 rebate because previously any car that had gone over 75 was only eligible for a $3,000 rebate. So you're getting, what is it? I just figured it out. There was about $6,000 rebate and an additional $5,000. So the price of the car, effectively, as of this week, has dropped $11,000. If you don't,
I think we're going to see a lot of Performance Model 3s in your neck of the woods.
That's it. Mine is no longer a unicorn. It's just going to be one in a sea of millions.
The other piece of information, obviously, is contrary to what Elon had said previously, the standard color is now a pearl multi-coat white, not a solid white, which really surprised us because, obviously, pearl white was, here anyways, it's a $2,000 option. I'm very happy to see that. I know I love white. So for me, that's an extra nice freebie. If I was going to order a car, I was just going to order solid white anyways. But multi-coat pearl, extra bonus on that one. I like that.
Which, by the way, props to the Tesla team for actually having that consideration to realize we made the announcement. There was then some dialogue internally, and they said, you know what? Right. We're going to make it easier on ourselves. We're just going to go with the pearl white. So good for them.
Yeah. Elon had said that the service team had convinced them not to go with the solid white because it affects too much service down the pipe. I don't know, maybe it's just painted bumpers or whatever. But hey, who cares? It's a great bonus. It's a great color for those guys who really like that. So yeah, good news on Model 3. And you know what? And I have to point it out there. I mean, a lot of people are obviously upset about price changes. Price changes, we've talked about this before. It's not the first time Tesla's done it. It's not going to be the last time. I have a feeling once the Maxwell technology comes on, volumes even keep increasing, they get their costs down, Model 3 is going to keep getting cheaper. I mean, it would not surprise me to get below sub $35,000 eventually, even on the Standard Range Plus. And there's a good chance they may even be able to get eventually, maybe even sub $30,000. So,
I think that's
economies of scale. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, what's happening here is Tesla's pushing very aggressively to get into all kinds of new markets. And they're being vicious and ruthless in getting the price down on this car as fast as that they can. Mm-hmm. I think it would not surprise me eventually that they get this below the pricing that they originally planned. I mean, it's got to hurt them internally to think, look, we promised $35,000. We still haven't really technically met it yet. I'm sure that they would love to be able to get that into more and more hands. Despite the fact that they say it's an appreciating asset. Right now, before we see anything with FSD, it's not an appreciating asset. I don't believe any of that stuff. But anyways, enough talk about that. Let's move on a little bit. Model S obviously saw... Oh, yes, go ahead.
I want to clarify one thing because I know we're going to get a bunch of questions on it. That off-menu thing with the Model 3 Performance, where you can get 18-inch and it drops $5,000, no one anywhere seems to have confirmed what that does to configuration. The buzz around the table is if you basically, like Eric said, you get a dual motor car at that point. It would be like the original base version, so you would not be getting the carbon spoiler, you would not be getting the performance brakes, because we think that's the only way they can get the 18-inch wheels to fit. The only other possibility is that they redesign the brakes. I had an online Twitter discussion.
I saw the conversation you had with Alex Vance there.
Exactly. Yeah, and we were back and forth on this, and we agree. And I have a funny feeling to drop $5,000, they're taking some hardware out of that car. So until we hear from Tesla, we won't know for sure, but assume that you are getting basically a very base car with no performance brakes, no carbon, etc. That's it.
Okay, good point. We'll keep an eye on that as soon as we find out. We get some definite concrete information about that. I might even call Tesla just to confirm myself, just to see.
It'd be good because a lot of people are asking, and right now it's dead air.
Okay. Well, I'll get on that maybe tomorrow.
Do it.
Model S and Model X also affected by price changes. So the standard range Model S and the standard range Model X gone. Doesn't exist anymore. They're only offering the long range, the performance, and the performance with ludicrous. So long range Model S is now $80,000. It was $85,000 to begin with. No, I'm sorry. The performance is gone now completely too. So they only have the, the long range and the performance with ludicrous. So Model S performance ludicrous was $116,000 US prior to the price change. Now it's $100,000. And the biggest price drop happened on the Model X because of the performance with ludicrous. It used to be $122,000 US. Now it's $105,000. That's a $20,000 drop, almost a $20,000 drop. So yeah, I mean, if you're upset about price changes on the Model 3, think about the poor people that bought a Model X and paid the extra $20,000 that were not a prior owner, because as prior owners before, there's a little bit of a caveat there where you could order a Model X and or a Model S, of course, and you would get the ludicrous option for free. And of course, if you're ordering one and you weren't a prior owner, you had to cough up the $20,000. So I don't know if there's any restitution as far as that's concerned. But anyways,
I'm just, the one thing I do want to say about this is because of how frequently these things keep happening, my overall sensibility says there's no reason to get upset. Just expect it. Like if you expect the changes to happen, whatever they are, you tend to be less upset. But I think the thing is like now with the S and X, for example, you're down to basically one car. Like you had options before. So if you were looking for the less expensive option, you don't have that anymore. So it sort of can be looked at both ways. Like people who were looking to get an entry-level Model S, for well under 100,000 are now creeping upwards to higher values. Same with the Model X.
Excuse me.
So it is a constant thing in flux. I understand and can appreciate the people who are saying, it'd be really great, just kind of have it stick for a while, maybe last a quarter, 6 months, whatever it is. But there has to be some ongoing conversations within Tesla's four walls that are making these changes happen. But because of how rapidly in succession they're happening, it just is more alienating and more frustrating for a lot of consumers.
I would agree with you. And the thing is that you have to understand, this is not our first rodeo. We're very well versed in this price changes and policy changes at Tesla. What I'm worried about is the new buyer who's coming in, who's buying their first car. They're not expecting these changes. How are they going to react? They're the people that are going to get upset. I mean, the people that have had a Model 3 or an S or an X for 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, this is kind of old hat. We're kind of used to it. It's no less upsetting in a lot of cases. I'm not upset. I bought my car. I literally stopped looking. I stopped thinking about the price that I paid. I just enjoy the car. That's my sensibility. That's how I came into it. But I've been around longer than, a guy who's just walking off the street and wants to buy a Model 3. So I understand where that's coming from. So I think also it's incumbent upon us as current owners, if we ever encounter people in the public, I think it's a conversation that needs to be started. I mean, how long, how far, how much is the usual conversation that everybody has. I have a T-shirt to prove it. But the other part too is, I think now that we've seen these price changes, is I got to start having this conversation with people about the pricing situation, and we have to frame it. And this is the way I'm going to do it. Frame it like computer technology, right? And Ian, you've made the point many times before on the podcast that this is not endemic just to Tesla. Every dealer and manufacturer does these rebates and these incentives all the time, so the prices are always fluctuating. You don't necessarily pay the same price as the next guy that walked in because maybe he had better negotiation skills, right? At least with Tesla, we know that when you walk in, you know that everybody's paying the same price at that particular time.
Right. It's not MSRP, it's just P.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Elon said that. I thought that was beautiful. It's exactly right. Like, we only have one price, P.
So again, I'm just going to say it. If anybody's out there who's talking to the public, if you're sharing your referral code or whatever the case may be, I think it's important for us to actually start having that conversation with the new owners and try and mitigate this problem as best you can. And just explain to people, they said, look, this is a computer. It's going to evolve with technology. Computers get better, faster, and cheaper all the time. So don't be surprised if Tesla changes the prices down the road. And I'm very fond of saying to people, fun is remembered long after price is forgotten. So if you take that to heart,
not only that,
you'll be better off.
Think about the number of companies like Apple and Amazon and many others where you see a deal, you nab it, you buy it, you're happy with it. But then 2 weeks later, you go back and see the same product dropped in price, and it's like $80 cheaper, $100 cheaper, whatever it is. And maybe you feel like, well, damn it, I can't do anything about that. I now overpaid what it is. That's just what the economy is like nowadays, where prices all the time will change. And if you're just outside a window of like exchanging it, trading it, whatever, then it sucks. You feel like you got suckered. I mean, we've all been look, something as simple. Ready? TV sets. How when TVs first come out with some new feature, whether it's new resolution, a new technology, whatever it is. I remember when LEDs first came on the market, you could not get an LED TV for under $1,000. You couldn't. And now you can go to a store and walk in with $200 and get yourself an LED TV. So over time, and this is to your point, Trevor, as technology improves, as the software updates happen, as the developers do their magic at Tesla, like as things just continue to work themselves out, we're going to find that stuff becomes cheaper and cheaper over time. Mind you, the Model 3 has been in the conversation now for over 3 years. The car is going to be at some point cheaper today than it was 3 years ago. Okay, that's just reality. The Model S and X are going to go through their changes too, and we've had how many refreshes of these cars? With the new motors now, with the Raven refresh, like they're different cars now. There's even like tiny changes in how the Model X trunk is. I mean, it's, so here's the one thing I will say. If you're interested in getting into a Tesla, do like Trev does, look at the aftermarket, look in the used market. You're going to find great value there. Are you going to be paying for less money for a car? Absolutely. Is it brand new? No. But many Tesla owners take phenomenal care of their cars. I mean, we talked about how to, right, these two guys here on the show love their cars, sometimes eerily more than their family. It is what it is, okay?
That's only a rumor.
For some of us, the car is more than just a point A to point B,
right.
Conveyance. It's a
right.
Pride of joy.
It is. So, and we all love driving our cars just to go somewhere. Like, hey, you want to go to the store? I'll go. Like that's just
let's go to KSC today.
Right, exactly.
I forget things on purpose exactly for that reason.
Right. So I'll have to go back to the office. I'll see you in 3 hours. So yes, it is a pride of joy for all of us. I know a lot of folks are sort of turned off. There's plenty of ways to get into a car. It doesn't always have to be brand new. If you have a budget and you know what that budget is, there's a car out there for you, whether it's resale, whether it's the used market, whether it's an inventory vehicle from Tesla. There are ways of getting into a car that you like without paying full value if that's what you're looking for.
I mean, I listed my car, and now that I've listed my car, I get all kinds of stuff that comes up in my feed. I just saw like an 85, a Model S 85 for $33,000 US.
Mm-hmm.
There's some good deals out there. If you really want a Tesla, you don't necessarily have to buy brand new. You're absolutely right. I mean, some people don't like to buy brand new. They let somebody else take the depreciation hit.
By the way, Trev, you just dropped a little hint there. I mean, I don't think all the listeners/viewers are aware of perhaps your announcement this week.
Do we want to talk about that now? I guess we can talk about that now.
You just dropped it right there. I mean, you listed.
Are you putting news on the show? What happened?
All right, I can't. Well, okay. So I put it out on Twitter a couple days ago, and I just did a video today after I detailed my car again because it was a nice day. I've been thinking about this for some time now. I've decided to list my Model X for sale to see if I get any. Yeah, to get any bites. Now, I'm not defecting. I'm still going to buy another Tesla as long as I get my ask. If I don't get ask or close to my ask, I'm not selling the car. I mean, it's I love it too much.
ASK, for those of you listening.
ASK, yes, what I'm asking for the car. There'll be a link in the video podcast description if you guys want to go and take a look at the listing if you're interested. I don't need to justify it. It's just one of those things. It's like, okay, I don't need this big of a car anymore. Maybe I'd like a change. Performance Model 3 interests me now. So it is what it is. But if I don't get what I'm asking for, I mean, it's not costing me anything. It's still affordable for me. So that's my thinking. So it's nothing other than that. It's just it's something I've been thinking about for a time, and I just decided to just float it out there and see if I get any bites. So if anybody's interested, reach out. It's a really nice car.
Indeed, it is.
Oh, I think it's important to also, because this just popped in my mind here, since we're on the topic of price changes, I think it would be irresponsible for us to not mention that there is going to be another price change on August 16th. Elon had mentioned that FSD is going to increase by another $1,000.
Yep.
So if you're looking at FSD, jump in now because it's going to go up another $1,000, and it won't be the last price change.
It's going to keep going up.
It's going to keep going up. At some point, they got to put a cap on it because you can't sell FSD for $20,000, in my personal opinion, but whatever. So, so if you're looking for a car or you're looking into added aftermarket, whatever, jump in because, nobody likes price increases on something like that. So, anyways, August 16th is the date. Elon also floated that is possibly as close as he can think of the release date for Enhanced Summon. That's the one that everybody's been waiting for those of you who has Enhanced Autopilot or have paid for FSD to get that. So look for that somewhere around there. Again, Elon time. You never know what could happen. It could change. Okay, so we'll leave it like that. You guys can take a look at the price changes on your own stuff, but there are some deals to be had. All right, let's talk about MotorTrend. So MotorTrend just did an interview with Elon Musk, and they kind of reflected a little bit back on the significance of the Model S because they awarded it the ultimate car of the year. Again, links to all of these articles that we're talking about will be in the podcast. So anyways, this is a short video. It's about 3.5 minutes, where they talk to Elon. They also did a subsequent video that they put out on Twitter, which is actually on their website. It's kind of funny, asking about some questions to Elon. It's not Tesla related. It's just kind of funny. Eric, any thoughts on this? Because I'll give you a chance to talk. It's not just about me.
Oh, hey, thanks. So the first thing, and I thought the most important takeaway, is that Tesla affirmatively says a hot dog is not a sandwich. I thought that was really critical. So
inquiring minds want to know.
I'm just saying we live in divisive times, and you tell someone a hot dog is not a sandwich, all of a sudden you got every which way. People might actually not vote for in elections, but they'll actually say what a hot dog. Oh my God, all bets are off. So the few takeaways I had were really twofold. So the first part is with every interview that Elon gives, and I know Frank Tolson was there too, but every interview that they have always reveals something. So for him to talk about the cars he drives, I thought was interesting. Yes. He drives an S first and foremost.
That's his daily driver.
That's his daily driver. And then he has a Model 3. Mm-hmm. And then Model 3 Performance. And then he has the Model X for the kids, for the family. Yeah. So I think it was cool that he sort of like listed them in that order. Like we know he's got all three cars, which is just interesting for him to say like, these are my babies. I love my babies. The other takeaway is, you know, when MotorTrend sort of bestowed this award and, you know, they were like, oh, thank you so much. We're appreciative and that sort of thing. You know, for them to talk about the history of the S, the perfections they had, like they kind of dove into, you know, even like the slightest millimeter. Like they talk about, we don't want to make the car too high because then it would look terrible. We wanted it to have that sex appeal in the chassis. So to kind of get that insight, which I'm sure in some form or fashion has been mentioned before, but to hear them even still talk about that car like they were still designing it, you know, as if they just did it yesterday morning. And they're like, you know, we try to squeeze every possible dimension of this car. We knew we started with, you know, the wheelbase and the floorboard and the battery pack and yada yada. And then of course now you get the carpet, so of course that adds thickness. And then they get into, well, we wanted headroom and so forth. So it's just insightful to hear the two of them go to that length to share that insight. Because I don't get bored hearing that. It's just great to see these two genius designers go into that much detail over things that we generally overlook. Even now with the Model Y design, like, you know, you guys saw the car in person. A lot of folks have been drooling over this car, and I can't imagine every rendering, every sketch, every, you know, conversation just going, okay, what else can we get out of this? You know, can we add this feature? Can we do this design change? Can we, you know, the Model X? I mean, imagine the Model X conversations about the front glass. You know what I mean? Like
the design conversations for that must have been mental. When you look at how incredibly complicated it is and how different it is from anything else. I think with the
Model X is one of those cars that's like they didn't know when to say no.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's like, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that.
But you know what though? To their credit, we're gonna try something. If it fails and blows up in her face, so be it. But damn it, if we get it to work, watch out.
Those Falcon wing doors was probably the most complicated thing ever done.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they.
I mean, I marvel at every time
and they admit it too, multiple times on record.
I marvel at those things. Every time they open and close, I'm like staring at it. I'm going, Jesus, the work that went into that.
The amount of frustration that they experience in design and repairs and everything else with those when they first came out was a nightmare. But once you nailed it, it's like the space program. Mercury and Gemini had their issues, and once you finally got it, damn it, we're on the moon.
Always got to work a little space into there, Eric.
But seriously, like, well, you know,
especially this week. Come on,
it is exactly. Right. I mean, hello. Yeah. So yes, for those of you that don't know, 50 years ago, this time we're actually on our way to the moon. So it is interesting. Right.
Moon landing happens tomorrow, actually.
Yes. So yeah, it is intriguing in a number of ways to hear them go into that. But yeah, like how I wish you could have been a fly on the wall during those conversations, just to understand, was there aggression? Was someone fighting for a certain design feature? I mean, just incredible conversation.
I don't think people, I mean, I watch a lot of YouTube on car design and documentaries and stuff. I don't think people have any concept of how much effort goes into designing a car. And what's doubly even more interesting to me is how fast Tesla can design a car compared to everybody else. Mm-hmm. That blows my mind. Like I heard Elon say the Model S essentially, or the Model 3 essentially went from drawings to production in 2.5 years.
Yeah. Which is incredible.
I mean, look at Ian laughing. He knows the car industry.
Well, you know why? Because I work with OEMs to design, you know, wheels for them for their own programs. And the last major one we did took 2 years to design one wheel for one car. 2 years. for a wheel.
I mean,
these guys did a whole car. You know,
I was gonna say, look at Volkswagen, all the designs they have, all the different sketches. Like, I mean, that takes a long time to get. But even once the rendering is out, okay, now go build the car. That's actually not an easy thing to do. And Tesla didn't have a foundation to start from. They built the first electric car from the ground up, specifically electric. They didn't have, a lot of like examples to look at and go, okay, well, that's how it gets done. Like, no, they had to basically rebuild it from the ground up.
I think it's important to also mention, too, that you have to put that into context. When Ian says 2 years to design a wheel, that's concurrent with other programs that are going on at the same time. It's not like they spend 2 years on the wheel, then move on to the engine, and then, you know what I mean?
There's just thousands of engineers all around the world working on other things.
Exactly. So
this is from the, hey, this would be a good idea, to, yes, it's rolling out the factory door. So there's a lot
exactly. So you have to put that into context. I mean, most of these large manufacturers have thousands and thousands and thousands of engineers working on not only those components and subcomponents, but also multiple product lines. And here we have Tesla's got essentially 3 cars and 3 others in the works right now, potentially 4.
Well, imagine how long
they do it with much less resources.
I was gonna say, imagine how long the clay modeling takes.
Well, you know what? There's a really good presentation. I'm sorry to go off on a tangent here, but there's a really good presentation by Javier Vendura. And if I remember to, I'll make a note here to put a link into the video. Hold on, let me just write this down here so I don't forget, because I think it's important for you guys to watch. I met Javier.
Better late than Trevor.
Yes. You're hell-bent on that title for today.
I said it before the show, and I'm like, I got to throw this in there somewhere.
Okay, so there is an excellent presentation on YouTube. I will link to it. You guys can watch it, by Javier Vendura, and he talks about the design process, because you just mentioned about the clay models and how Tesla does things. Now, I'm sure other manufacturers do it too, but it was interesting to see the from an insider how Tesla does iteration processes on their design. Anyways, I won't talk about it. I'll just link to it. You guys can watch the video. It's very interesting. All right, I think we talked about this enough. Let's move on. Let's talk about Tesla's vehicle safety report. The Q2 report. Is this the Q2 report? Yes, it's the Q2 report that just came out. Eric, why don't you take point on this one and tell us about the Tesla's vehicle safety report?
Sure. So we've mentioned this in the past that every quarter Tesla is going to release their autopilot vehicle safety report. The most recent report they have for Q2 2019 just came out recently, and Tesla tweeted this information out. So I'm going to just kind of put a little summary on what was in the report. So in the second quarter, we registered 1 accident for every 3.27 million miles driven in which drivers had autopilot engaged. For those driving without autopilot, but with our safety features active, we registered 1 accident for every 2.19 million miles driven. Now, for those driving without autopilot and without the active safety features at all, they registered 1 accident for every 1.41 million miles driven. By comparison, NHTSA's most recent data shows that in the United States alone, there was an automobile crash every 498,000 miles. So, in short, this report says that if you have a vehicle with autopilot on, you are 8 times less likely to get into a vehicle accident than a car without any of that stuff. So that alone is an impressive figure, that it's 8 times safer driving a Tesla just for that reason alone.
It's wonderful news, because autopilot, despite all of its fancy baubles and features, it is about safety at the end of the day. So, nice to see this. So look for that every quarter. Tesla's going to put out one of these safety reports. So if you guys are into data and you want to check that out and give somebody some proof that Teslas are safer rather than just paying lip service to the whole thing, or somebody gives you a bit of a jab in the side, well, you can tell them. Let's talk about a new supercharger. This is the one that just opened in Las Vegas. Now, Tesla just put out a tweet today.
Viva Las
Vegas. So, really quick. I mean, you can look at it. I'll put a link to it again. You guys can watch this, but it's just kitty corner. It's quite neat. It's kitty corner to the Ferris wheel right by Hannah's there.
Yeah, it's next to the high roller at the link.
Good. Thank you. So it looks from the video, how many chargers? 24?
There are 24 V3 stations and 15 level 2 high power wall connectors.
And solar panels?
Mm-hmm. And power walls.
Yes, power packs.
I'm sorry, power packs. But yeah, but
so look for that in Las Vegas.
It's a self-sustaining station.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So Tesla's saying here this location, it would be able to handle more than 1,500 cars charging daily there, which is awesome. And it's all V3, which is just killer.
The initiative also supports Caesar's goal of reducing its carbon emissions on its property by 30% by 2025, while making Las Vegas a friendlier destination for EV charging.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like to go to Las Vegas. I would love to go back to Las Vegas. It's on my list of things to do with the Roadster when we get it. Nice little tour. Get down there. So nice to be able to see that we got some V3 happening there. So congratulations to Tesla. Actually, there is a Tesla feed. Actually, there is a Twitter feed you can subscribe to, and I forget what it's called. I think it's Supercharger feed. But anyways, whenever there's a new permit or a construction or a supercharger that opens.
Oh, supercharge.info.
Yes, very good. Thank you. So yeah, that's the one to follow, so you know whenever Supercharger opens and stuff. They have a great map, by the way. You can look that up. Yeah.
By the way, I'm not sure if you caught this in the video, but you know what car was at that station that they demoed?
I see a Model X.
A Model X, which if you guys follow along, of course, we know right now, what cars can support V3?
Only the Model 3.
Only the Model 3. So interesting, there was a Model X at a V3 station. Could there be something down the pipeline? Who knows?
Tinfoil hats on. Okay. Let's go.
The answer is eventually yes, but I would not read anything into that. That's just
it is
just
intriguing. Why pick that as the demo? You're absolutely right, Eric. I find that fascinating.
Well, the Model X shows well.
I'm just saying.
All right, it's conspiracy week, right? Because, Storm Area 51's coming up September. So
yes.
How many people are going to die?
I hope everyone's arrested. Like, come on. Can we not do this?
I hope that's all that happens is they get arrested.
You are forewarned not to go on government property. Can you please just stop with this nonsense?
You do realize that was a joke that somebody put out and then it got out of hand.
I know.
Like, uh-oh.
Man, I can't. Don't get me on this horse already.
You know what? If it just turns out to be a little Woodstock and it's harmless, great. But anyway,
Woodstock was not harmless.
The Area 51
Woodstock was not harmless, man.
Well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. All right, let's talk about mileage. Someone unbelievably just set a new world record on a Model S. Hansjörg Gemmingen. Did I pronounce that right? Gemmingen? My gosh, he just crossed 900,000 kilometers. So for those of you who are not on the scientific measurement system, that's 350 miles. Sorry, I had to. I cannot help myself. Anyways, he says he's running on a second battery pack. So that is amazing. It's a P85 Model S.
Original motors.
So that's amazing. That's just crazy. 900,000 miles.
All I know is our friend Raphael, Tesla Tino, is looking at the number going, I'm coming for it.
Gold. Hashtag gold, man.
There is a leaderboard. I don't have it in front of me right now. Yeah. There is a leaderboard for the Model 3 for those who have the highest mileage on there. I know a friend of mine who got his Model 3 a year ago, and I think he has close to 100,000 kilometers on it already.
Holy cow.
Yeah, he does Uber. He does a bunch of stuff, but he's a maniac. He drives everything with that car. So anyways, Rob, you know who you are. So congratulations, Hansjörg. I did it again. I didn't pronounce his name. Mr. Gemmingen on that incredible achievement. And, of course, he's not stopping. The car's still going, so chances are he's going to hit 1 million kilometers on this.
Before the year's even over.
Yeah, exactly. What's he doing with this thing? Is he doing a taxi?
I don't know.
Do we even know? I have to reach out to him and see. Crazy.
But
who says EVs can't go? And everybody says, oh, you need a new battery in 2 years. No.
Now, granted, he's on the second battery, but driving over 500,000 miles and just now being on your second battery is impressive. But you have the original motors in the car. That's important.
The other thing you have to remember here, when you say a second battery pack, it does not necessarily mean he had to replace it because it was dead. It could have been a warranty issue. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Even though the car's out of warranty, he might have had to pay for a replacement or whatever.
All I know is
Tesla's pretty good about out of warranty, especially with their battery.
Well,
even though they have an exception.
The Model S has an 8-year unlimited mileage warranty.
Exactly.
Right. So he was fine.
See, there you go. Yeah. Okay. So any problems, you're covered. Don't worry about it. That's why I tell people, don't worry about it, man.
You're not
going to have the car long enough to replace a battery.
So I know of a story of a Model S customer who had I think they had an 85D, and their battery had an issue. So at some point they go into service and they couldn't, for whatever reason, find an 85 battery pack to replace it. So they ended up giving them a 90.
Nice.
So they ended up leaving the badge on the car because they didn't want to replace it, but they had an 85D with a 90D battery pack.
I've heard of stories like that happened. I have a friend of mine who has a signature Model X P90D ludicrous, and I don't know how he managed it. I talked to him, and he said that there was a very short window where some people were allowed to do an upgrade. Anyways, he has a unicorn. He has a signature red signature series Model X with a 100 kilowatt hour battery.
Wow.
Now, he paid very dearly for that battery, but he has it. So the only one in existence, as far as I know. All right, let's talk about Disney, because there was a rumor that had spotted out, and unfortunately the article has been removed, so all we have to link on is an article here from Teslarati. I'll bring it up here, because the rumor was going around that Disney Tomorrowland was in negotiations in Florida to have Tesla sponsor their track and replace all those smelly old gasoline cars that the kids are driving around with EVs. Now, unfortunately, there was an update, and they say Walt Disney World today responded and said, "Thank you for sharing your interest in Tomorrowland. Please know this information is not true." So, womp womp. I'm disappointed by this. I was hoping that it was going to be real. I even responded to that tweet, and I said, I think it's incumbent upon you people, if you're going to call yourself Tomorrowland, to do something about this.
Get with tomorrow already. Get with today.
Exactly. It's not really Tomorrowland if you're still driving gasoline cars. And think of the poor snowflake children.
Well, I know. So I was at Disney recently a couple months ago, and that area's been under construction for a while. And they're really expanding even more construction behind what was Tomorrowland for that part of the raceway. So they are going to have a new track, new cars. It's designed to be clean, safer for the kids, still family friendly. But yeah, they're doing away with the gas cars altogether. So you're not going to have the and all the exhaust and the fumes. That's long gone. The fact that Tesla's name won't be on it as a sponsor of any kind is sort of, it is sad by and large, but it's not going to change what their designs are for this new version of the raceway. It is going to be clean, energy efficient vehicles. It just won't be Tesla branded electric cars. But that's okay. We still have,
you know what? I think for Tesla it would have been the easiest thing for them to do. Just slip them a few bucks.
Sure.
Sponsor it. I mean, think of all the kids, the exposure.
But being how large and powerful Disney is, do you think Tesla's getting a good deal on that if they're doing sponsorship?
Well, irresponsive of the fact, but I'm just thinking about the public relations. I mean, let's face it, as owners, kids get the Teslas.
Yeah.
These people that are nasty, noisy negativists on Twitter and the internet talking about Tesla has a demand problem. No, as owners, we know firsthand, the kids get it. Where do you think all these cars are going to go to in a few years? These teenagers and kids are going to grow up aspirational. That's what they wanted. They want to buy Teslas. There's lots of demand. You got kids now that are going to be driving these things.
But actually, Trev, you just nailed it. That's precisely the point. I don't think they need to spend the money. They sell every car they can build right now, and every kid in my neighborhood when watches me goes by, he's like, I can see a little finger poking out, and they're waiting there for the bus. I mean, they're already on board. I mean, they don't need any more selling. So I think
look at the rocker panel damage.
Okay, well, there's that coming up. We'll explain that reference. Yes, but no, I think kids are already kind of sold at this point in time. When they're really trying to watch their P's and Q's and keep the profit margins up. I don't know it's the right time. Maybe in 5 years when they're going to be more flush with cash and looking to expand even further, that would be the move. But right now, it's like they're doing amazing. Like, I mean, the demand, I don't think gets you much return at this stage.
No, I don't disagree with you. I just thought, I mean, if they had a little bit and maybe it worked out, who knows? Sometimes with this stuff, there's always a little bit of nugget of truth. Who knows?
Oh, I no doubt the conversation happened. It's not going to execute right now.
I think it's too bad, but hey, it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, Eric is right. If they get rid of those smelly gas cars on I'll be happy, because that's one thing I actually do remember from going to Disney. It's not cool to be hanging around that area. All right, let's talk about a quick tweet that happened this past week here about the Roadster. Elon took to Twitter and dropped us a little bit of a bomb Not as much as some information I was hoping for, but anyway. So this tweet went out where somebody had done these renders about a Back to the Future inspired Roadster, and he had asked, how's that SpaceX package actually going to look like? They tagged Elon on it. He responded, he says, the SpaceX thruster package will be subtle. It'll actually be hidden behind the license plate, James Bond style. How cool is that?
Mm-hmm.
But implicit in that is like, I mean, if it's a rearward firing thruster, does that mean the plate has to roll up out of the way? How are the cops going to deal with this? I don't think they're going to be too happy. Is that the getaway car mode?
Okay, let me just... I mean, this can go several different ways. Whether this package is legally allowed to be used on the streets is one thing, a track,
true.
whatever. Maybe it's a removable plate when you need to use it. We don't know all the details yet.
True.
But the fact that they're hiding it, this is going to be a sleeper. I had this conversation with somebody today. We know that the price of the Founders Edition is $250 US. The base price is going to be $200. What do you get for that $50,000? Not a paint job, I hope. Something's going to be in there. So is the SpaceX package going to be, what do you guys think? Is it going to be separate, or is that going to be part of the Founders Edition? Like, what gives? What do you think? Any thoughts? Crickets.
You know what? It's
How cool would that be, though?
But it's one of those things where, like, we know so little about what they're doing with this car.
You have no idea.
Well, I saw the renderings that someone put out there of, like, the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Yeah,
that stuff on there. If they did that, I might have to start giving organs. That is amazing.
I've got the pictures up here. It's really cool. It even has a Mr. Fusion on the back.
I mean, your car could basically be Kit from Knight Rider. It'd be so great. Or James Bond. You know what? If knowing Elon, because he's got that submarine car from James Bond from 007, it would not surprise me if he's going to go, that'll be really great.
Can we make this thing go underwater?
Yeah.
Right.
That's the next one, right?
I'm sure that conversation's gone around the table here.
We got
what kind of crazy crap can we come up with today?
Yeah.
What can we put into the referral program to make this thing even nuttier?
There could be things that they're thinking about having as a feature of the car that technology today won't allow them.
Oh, of course.
But 2 years' time from now could change everything.
Yeah, anything is possible.
Dream big, man.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, enough talk about the Roadster. Let's talk about, I mean, this isn't Tesla related. Did you guys have a chance to watch the Neuralink presentation?
Nope. No. And it's killing me.
What's that thing at 11 o'clock at night? I was sleeping when that happened.
The part was I stayed up to watch this darn thing, and the live stream didn't start till an hour and a half past the time that they said that it was going to start. I just gave up. I watched it in the morning. But
I slept great.
I'll put a link to the live stream to the Tesla's one. Just fast forward to an hour and a half into the presentation, so you can actually watch it. Anyways, to make a long story short, absolutely fascinating with these guys. I mean, Elon's been talking about this Neuralink thing that they started about 2.5 years ago, and they've been in complete stealth mode. And they finally came out of stealth mode, and holy cow. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of talk about what they've been working on. We thought it was a brain interface. It's more than just, that's the aspirational goal. The things that they actually came out with is mind-boggling. Now, look, I'm not a surgeon. I don't know all of this stuff, but I find it absolutely fascinating how far they've come and what they've done in just 2.5 years. Not only did they make the world's smallest hermetically sealed chip with 1,024 channels, but the threads that they use to actually implant into the brain are so small they actually had to develop their own surgical robot to do this work, which is just mind-boggling. And the way that it's going to be installed, they'll have a subcutaneous little transducer that'll be behind the ear, so you'll wear a battery pack and a Bluetooth connected transmitter to your phone. It'll talk to it wirelessly, and it'll all be just behind your ear, much like a hearing aid. You won't even largely see it for a lot of people. So anyways, I encourage you to watch the presentation. Elon does his usual bit where he talks a little bit, and then he hands it off to the real experts. Pay attention. He has surrounded himself with some A-list players. He's got a neurosurgeon on board, several scientists, biomechanical people. It's truly fascinating. I'll be honest and just reiterate what they said at the presentation. It was a recruitment effort. So not only was it a presentation of where they've gone, but also where they want to go. and try to recruit people to join their team. They also said, aspirationally, again, Elon time has infiltrated this new venture as well. Aspirationally, they're hoping to do human trials by the end of next year. There's a whole process they have to do with the FDA. If you think it's bad designing a car and trying to get through NHTSA and all that regulations, try the FDA. So anyways, I don't think it's going to happen by the end of next year, but we'll see what transpires. But truly fascinating. If you're into that kind of thing, I highly encourage you to check it out. Again, link will be down in the video description. You guys can certainly watch that. FineLab has a line of protective coatings that were engineered to protect your Tesla's paint, leather, carpet, plastic, and wheels, effectively blocking all those UV rays and environmental factors before they ever get to ruin your brand new baby. FineLab offers a complete line of car care products and ceramic coatings for both the do-it-yourselfer and professional detailers. Did we mention we also have the world's first self-healing coating? Check us out at finelab.com, that's spelled FEYNLAB, to see the science behind the self-healing. Check out our product catalog and click Contact Us for a free quote from a certified installer in your area. FineLab and Tesla. We were meant for each other. We're almost at the point where we can talk to, or actually start answering viewer questions and listener questions. But actually, Ian, you have something that happened to you. And why don't you tell the people about what's happening here? And he graciously sent me some photographs, so try not to cringe too much. I'm going to put Ian over on this side so you can see what's going on. All right, Ian, take it over. What happened to your car?
Yeah, this was not even for public consumption. It's just Trev saw the picture and says, "Oh my God, you got to tell the story." It's like, yeah, okay, I will publicly admit I'm an idiot because it should be known. I can no longer hold back the secret. I am an idiot. So one of the ways I manifest this was a few weeks ago in a parking lot. I had pulled into a spot and waited while my dearest trotted into the store to pick up a few things. And of course, being a Model 3 owner or a Tesla owner of any sort, you always have to find the most remote, faraway spot, preferably next to a median, so no one can park, at least certainly on more than one side of you. So even when you're sitting in the car, I have this OCD habit of doing this. So I snuggle right up to this little median at the end of the parking lot and back into the spot, and I'm goofing around, playing with the games, etc. And a few minutes later, she runs back out of the store and hops in the car. And just as we're driving out of the spot, she says, "Oh, there's so-and-so from the office." So what do is, rather than looking where I'm going, I immediately turn to the right as I'm pulling out of the spot, completely forget there's a median beside me that I can't see, crank the wheel to the left, hit the accelerator, and hear it's pretty much as accurately as I can reproduce that sound. And that's the most horrifying
Here's
thing
the picture
you ever want to hear. And while that's happening, the whole left side of the car jacks up about 4 inches. So what I had done, friends, was drive the car stone cold sideways into the median. So right behind the driver's fender well, I punched basically a fist-sized egg dent into the rocker panel and then drove the entire car right up over the seam weld in the body at that point. So I basically split that whole lower plastic casing in half. That's that big,
was this
the big plastic.
Was this the passenger side rear wheel or the front?
It was the driver's side front. So just
okay.
behind the driver's side front fender edge is where it punched in, and then the car drove up. It continued onwards into the meeting. And of course, then the only thing worse than that is you now have to put the car in reverse and listen to the whole sound over again as it scrapes itself off. I mean, I would have rather had all the hair torn out of my body simultaneously. But that was no fun. So what happens in that case? Well, I am extraordinarly fortunate to have a large cadre of friends. One of them is my buddy Tim, who's been working in the body shop industry for 30 years, and he's a whiz-bang body tech. So I called him about an hour later and said, "Tim, I broke the car." And you could hear the trauma in my voice. So he dropped everything, ran over to the house, looked at it and said, "Bro, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." I kept repeating this until my blood pressure came down to, some normal number. And then, good to his word, he says, "Look, just go to Tesla, get the molding, bring it over to the shop one day." And he's really lucky. The shop he works at, he's an independent contractor there, and they let him do things after hours on his own terms. So he said, "Bring it in. I'll fix up the whole thing for free." Unbelievable, but true. These are the kind of friends I have. I am blessed. So yeah, he did this for me and did a stunning job. As a matter of fact, that side of the car now is better than the original rocker panel on the passenger side.
So I've got the photographs up here that you
Yeah.
sent me. The second photograph is the part where, you know, there's a little bit of duct tape at the top there, but you can see where he's ground down the paint down to the metal and, you know, pulled out some of the pock marks. This photograph shows some of the Bondo work that he's done.
Yeah, that in of itself was fascinating. I mean, I love watching Tim work. Anybody who works in the body shop industry, if you're a body shop tech, hats off to you. This to me is magic. It's like alchemy. It's wizardry. I don't understand how people do it with that level of skill. He literally did that entire job, start to finish, paint dry in 3 hours. Like went in there with these giant dentist tools there's basically a foam sealed plug right behind the wheel well when you take the plastic out, where you can access the inside of the rocker. And he goes in with these giant medieval looking dentist tools and just goes and you can see the dentist go punk 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 punk, and you'll see it in very rough stages in the images. And then he'd hammer it back in and he'd poke it back out. He's just working the metal from both sides, and he just gave it a very light grinding. And then rather than use body filler, he says, this is like a really sensitive area of the car. We know because people have been having problems with the paint peeling off at that point. It takes a lot of abuse. So he says, I don't want to use filler here. I'm going to use actual metal adhesive. He says, I'm going to use the same glue that we use to on a lot of the aluminum body cars now. They're actually, it's an adhesive that joins them right. So he says, this stuff is incredibly strong and you can shape it just as accurately as you can filler. It's astronomically expensive, but he was kind enough to actually use the adhesive rather than the filler. So I have no doubt that'll last the life of the car now because what he's put on there.
Yeah, and I have the final photograph here.
Yeah,
with your car sitting in your driveway, and it, man, does it ever look good.
So yes,
Can't
and again, hats off to my buddy Tim. The only thing I will tell you is, whatever you do, try not to break that little piece of plastic, which is what, about 4 inches wide and 7 feet long. Do you have any idea what that costs?
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
$310 Canadian for a piece of plastic.
So about $250 US then.
Yeah.
I think it's important to because we may get the comments or the questions about this. This particular area of the car is steel; it's not aluminum.
Yes.
So most body shops can work on this stuff without too much trouble. So obviously, it's not an insurance claim; you just paid it out of pocket. I mean, it was free after all. And the color you mentioned, this was mixed custom by him.
Yeah.
BASF
I mean, he just went into the system. He actually had, you know, the proper color recipe for it in his system, and they've done
Tesla uses BASF colors, so it's pretty standard. Most manufacturers do.
Yeah, I didn't ask him who the supplier was on his, but usually a guy that knows what he's doing, you know, can match it. I mean, it's a dead on match, and he had actually worked on a midnight silver car just a few weeks prior, so there was no problem. There's no problem matching it. One thing I will point out to anybody who is buying, if you do have to replace that bottom piece, don't bother ordering the clips separately. There are 10 snap clips that basically fasten to the bottom. There are push pins at either end, 4 push pins. You have 2 M10 bolts at either end. And then you have just a whole little series of these spring clip push pins that go in. I went and bought 10 more of them because I didn't realize they came with them. And it's $30 just for the clips. And it turns out when I unwrapped the package that the molding came in, there's clips already on it. That's okay. I'll bring them back to Tesla. They'll refund me for them. I'm not worried.
Oh, that's nice.
But yeah, it is nice. At least for $300, you get, you know, the clips with it.
Okay. Great story. Turned out well for you. Looks great. So what about the other side now? Are you going to get the other side painted?
That's what I said when I looked at it. I said, what if he says, oh, dude, you should have told me. I would have organized it so we could have done the same side. You know what? I'm just going to buff the other side. And once that's done, then I'm going to put some paint sort protection. Exactly. I'm going to put some paint film.
It's a particularly vulnerable area on the Model 3. I know there's been some discussions on the forum and a variety of other places. People are putting on like little tiny mud flaps on the front of the car to try and mitigate some of this stuff.
Yes, that's something else to do for sure.
Exactly. So I mean, it's fairly inexpensive. It's just one of those things. Aerodynamics matter. Tesla's not going to do any more than they absolutely need to, I don't think.
True.
Okay, well, it's that time on the podcast where we get to answer your questions. If you ever want to send us a question, look for the day of the podcast, sometimes the day before on Twitter. This is the only place we do it. We put out a Google form where you can send in your question, and we will try our best to answer it to the best of our knowledge. We're not experts on this stuff, but if we know something, we'll tell you. If we don't, we will say so as well. So the first question comes from our friend Aaron. He says, given Elon's recent tweet about $3,000 less for FSD for EAP owners, do you think this will actually come to fruition? There's been some controversy about this again.
Well, You don't say.
Yeah. Again, more price changes. I don't know. If Elon says he's going to follow through with something, you can usually count on him actually following through with that stuff. Timing is suspect, though. We just don't know exactly when they do it. Like when I bought FSD for my car on March 1st, I did it too soon. I didn't wait for the dust to settle. The price that I paid was more than it actually was at the end of the day, and I had asked them for a refund, and they said, yeah, we'll do it, but it took me a month to get the money back. So if this happens, give it a little time, especially if it's done through your Tesla account, because a lot of that stuff is kind of done manually through batches, I'm told. So some of that stuff takes some time to filter through their systems. It's not necessarily immediate. So if that's of a concern for you, Aaron, just wait it out a little bit. And as soon as it's actually announced or it happens, Tesla will either contact you or just follow us on Twitter, and we'll let you know, when that happens, when or if that happens. Okay, let's see here. This one might be targeted for Ian here. Dion asks, I know Elon mentioned before about Tesla tires that last longer. Do you think we will see a tire made by Tesla, like a run flat style? Because if these vehicles will be doing rideshare network, they'll prone to flat tires. This is a question I think that a lot of people ask, because obviously with the Teslas, none of them come with spare tires. So you have to rely on roadside assistance or have some kind of, inflation device or whatever. I don't know. What do you think, Ian? You're the tire expert. This is your wheelhouse.
Yes. Well, I get the same question quite frequently, especially since none of the Tesla vehicles come with spare wheels or tires. What's the story? Like, are these things mutually exclusive? Is a reason we don't see run flats on EVs in general? And the answer at this point is, yeah, there is a little bit of an efficiency loss with a run flat tire, because you have to build the interior structure of this tire to support the weight of the entire vehicle while it's operating without any air in it. And it takes a tremendous amount of reinforcement to the carcass, the internal structure, the cords and belts inside the tire. And the problem with that is there's some energy losses. Tires go through what's called hysteresis. That is the flexing, that little bulge you see at the bottom of the tire. As the tire is spinning, that constantly has to change places. Yeah, there's a name for that. Of course, there's a name for everything when it comes to this stuff. The deeper you go down the tire rabbit hole, the weirder it gets.
I can imagine.
So yeah, the flexing in the sidewall eats up energy, and the stiffer that is, making it stiffer is good because you don't want it to flex too much. But if you put too much meat in there, then it really starts to burn up energy. So you eat up a lot of range by putting run flat tire. There's also some performance trade-offs. For instance, they generally don't ride as quietly or smoothly as a conventional tire. So there again, you're going to get more vibration and noise inside the cabin, and that's gonna cause some other issues. So the bottom line is, yeah, at this point in time, you're not going to get optimum range, and you're not going to have as quiet a ride on run flat tires. So I don't think that's why so far we've seen anything on an EV. And in the short term, I don't know. Maybe at some point we'll see something down the road. But for now, you're much better off with a conventional tire. The designs tend to be a lot more efficient.
But if somebody wanted to put some on?
You definitely can. There's nothing to stop you from doing it. The one thing you should be aware of is every tire manufacturer's policy in terms of what type of wheel you can mount it on is a little different. I can tell you, somebody who works with building wheels in the wheel manufacturing and designing, you can put a run flat tire, anybody's run flat tire, on a conventional rim. However, a lot of the tire companies will tell you you should be using what's called an EH2 plus rim. And that is the little bead hump, that little safety hump inside the rim, which holds the tire in position in the event that it goes flat. That is slightly more pronounced on a run flat rim. And the reason for that is if you take all the air out of it, it's an additional safety feature to keep the tire from debeading, and coming off the rim. Now, we've done all sorts of tests on run flat tires used on conventional wheels, and we've never run into a problem with it. But from a liability standpoint, you might want to get an EH2 plus wheel, depending on the manufacturer. Some of them now, like I know Bridgestone, for instance, has an entire line of aftermarket run flats that are designed to work specifically with conventional wheels. I believe Nokian also approves their run flats to work on conventional wheels. So as long as you get something that's designed from the get-go, then there's no problem. So if you like the security of the run flat, there's no reason you can't do it. It's just expect to take a little bit of a range hit, and you might find them a little bit rougher riding.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter this week in a few different places that there's this meme going on where some companies develop these tubeless, airless tires. They never run flat, whatever, because they're all flexible. Have you seen those?
Oh yeah, well Michelin's been working on that.
I mean, a lot of companies have been working on this stuff.
Yeah, for about 15 years, and Michelin is really the leader in the technology. What really raised a lot of eyebrows in the last about 2 months ago, not quite, 1.5 ago, I want to say, they signed a contract with GM. GM's going to be the first one to put it onto a production vehicle.
Really?
Yeah, about 5 years down the road. I think it's around 2022, 2023, something like that.
2 years just to approve a wheel, right?
Yeah, and you saw a set of them running around on a Bolt. So it was actually demonstrated on an EV, which was interesting. Okay. I have a lot of questions on how this is going to work. That's sort of beyond the scope of the show tonight. I could go on for about 20 minutes. I actually wrote a whole list of questions. We had a good discussion on if you just look up airless tire, or
if you find out more about that, I think it's worthy to have the discussion eventually on the podcast.
Yeah, well, again, I put the feelers out there. I'm waiting for some answers back because, particularly in cold weather. I mean, these are open cell tires. There's no sidewall structure to them, and they're already using this. ATVs are using them. The military's messing around with them. But I'm fascinated to know what happens when this thing gets full of ice and snow. Like, I'm not so sure. Be interesting to see where the technology goes, though.
Good. All right, next question comes from Jeremy. He says, I just ordered a Model 3 Performance. Congratulations, Jeremy. And was wondering, what do you guys use to clean your glass? We've had this question before. I know water stains are inevitable from rain and snow, but is there anything you use to help remove them when washing your vehicles? Perhaps a glass polish. Thanks, and love the podcast. Well, thank you, Jeremy, for the question. I know when I wash my car, I wash the glass as normal, and then I always finish, and I dry it off with a microfiber towel, and I always finish with a bottle of Invisible glass, which is maybe a slightly more caustic Windex. Windex works great too. I find with the Invisible glass that it leaves generally less streaks, I should say. But that's what I use on mine. It works for me. I don't know what you guys do.
You know what I absolutely love that I discovered a couple of months ago is Zepp. Zepp makes a whole bunch of industrial cleaners.
I'm aware of them.
Yeah, and the only place I've ever seen them for sale around here is at Home Depot. Okay. So I know Home Depot in Canada carries them. I assume in the US they do. And their glass cleaner is spectacular. I absolutely love it. It looks just like Windex, but man, is it good. It really cleans deep down, and I find it leaves a lot less streaks.
Okay, I'm going to look that up too. Actually, one of my favorite YouTube channels for watching on car detailing is Ammo NYC. So if you guys are interested in watching a channel that's dedicated, is pretty anal retentive about cleaning his cars, I get a lot of tips from that. Seems to work. He's a pretty knowledgeable guy. Okay, moving along. Next question comes from Sean. He says, is it possible for Tesla to sell a software unlock for the Model 3 all-wheel drive to decrease the 0 to 60 time to closer to the Model 3 performance 0 to 60 time, or is there a hardware difference that would not make this possible? Decrease? Increase?
This has been a hot topic today.
Decrease. I think it should be increase, right?
I think he means, let me read
he says decrease
the 0 to 60 time. Yeah, okay. So drop the 0 to 60 time so it's closer to a performance model. This is definitely a hot topic, and it's been asked a couple of times over the last year. And just today, just before the show, I had a Twitter discussion going back and forth. My big thing is, and I'm dying for someone to answer this, and I've already reached out to some Tesla tech connections I have to see. I have questions about the inverter, because if you remember back to a little over a year ago when Elon started dropping the details on the Performance Model 3, and he had a little back and forth thing going with Ryan McCaffrey. And he was asked, like, okay, what are some of the primary differences with the car? And he said, well, we batch the motors out in like the highest sigma. In other words, the best motors get picked for use in the performance cars, and then they get an extra burn-in time to make sure that they're up to the task. And then he said they use a silicon carbide inverter. Now, subsequently, I've been trying to ask around to find out, is that inverter exclusive to the Performance Model 3, or did they standardize it like they did so many other parts and make it, across the board, or certainly just all dual motor cars? And no one seems to be able to give me the answer. I went so far as to look it up in the parts catalog online. Our friend Iqtidar Ali last year.
I have it.
Yeah, we all did. Everybody downloaded it. It's it's Model 3 porn. I said, oh, look at all the parts. Wow. So I looked up the parts for it, and you can see there's designations, there's notes in the listings for all the parts that are performance Model 3 specific. There's only one number for the inverter. So make of that what you will. Was that up to date at the time it was published? I'm real
Anything
curious.
can change. It would, you know what? Honestly, it would not surprise me that Tesla has standardized on the parts between the AEW all-wheel drive and the performance Model 3, and they're just doing some kind of software limit. It would not surprise me that they would do that.
Yeah.
Especially given the prices now, the way they are.
Yeah, well, there's still even if you strip the car down to its most basic form, what are we talking? What's dual motor start at now? Just a straight dual motor in the US?
The all-wheel drive is $48,000. Model 3, $48,000 is now the base price of the all-wheel drive. The performance, as long as you don't swap out the 18-inch tires, $55,000.
But if you swap it out, so there's only $1,000 difference now to go from a dual motor to the 18-inch performance model?
Yes, but again, we had that conversation earlier on in the podcast. How much are they decontenting the car? We don't know yet.
Yeah, but still, you'd be crazy. Decontenting it, it would still have to be...
You have a point. I get it.
Wow. No, something doesn't make sense here. You're basically you're chopping another, second off the 0 to 60 for $1,000. It's the bargain of the century. There's something here there's a warp in the space-time continuum. I'm not wrapping my head around this.
Exactly. So I think Sean has a valid point. It's just, we just don't have all the details yet. So I'm sure somebody's going to figure it out at some point. Maybe one of these hackers will be able to get in and see if there's any software differences, whatever. A lot of this stuff is just, sometimes it's software, sometimes you just need to disassemble a car. But I don't think Sandy Monroe is going to disassemble one of these cars just to find out on our behalf.
I'm not volunteering.
He spends
about
$2 million doing that process. So anyways, if we find out, we'll let you know. But there's something fishy going on there for sure. All right, next question comes from Aaron, I should say. He says, it's a question for Ian. Does Ian still recommend the SanDisk Connect for Sentry mode?
Yes, I absolutely love it. It's awesome. You take the USB key out, you just flick it into Wi-Fi mode. You can sit there with your phone. You can look at all your footage. It's been working gloriously. I know that I think the reason the question is being asked is there's a lot of questions about the durability of it. Mm-hmm. So a few people I've chatted with who know more about these things seems to think it'll be good for about 6 months to a year. I'm using it daily, so we'll see how long it lasts. But so far, what am I guess about a month and a half into running the thing, 2 months, and all is well so far.
All I know is my USB key that I just formatted last week, I just stuck it back in my car and I turned on the dash cam for the Tesla one, even though I have a real dash cam in my car. It's not responding again, so it probably needs to be reformatted. Darn it. Moral of the story is don't use cheap USB keys or rely on them for constant writes. They're not really designed for constant writes. That's hard drive territory type stuff. So if you really want that kind of storage and longevity and stuff, SSD. I recommend the little Samsung one, especially if you have a Model 3. Get that the Jeda hub there because it's got a hidden compartment for it. I did a whole video about that. We talked about that. Anyways, moving on. Next and last question of the evening comes from Bill in Vancouver. He says, I ordered a CHAdeMO adapter for my Model 3 when it suddenly reappeared on Tesla's website this month, and I received it this week. Any idea when the corresponding firmware will roll out to be able to use it? I'm on 2019 20.4.4. Looking forward to accessing the rest of beautiful British Columbia with it. And I don't blame you, Bill. BC is beautiful. So we know officially the software that you need is 2019.24.1 to enable this. I just got a notice, I think on Teslafy, the channel, it's starting to roll out. So how many extra things are actually included with that software update? I don't know yet. The fact that CHAdeMO is enabled in there may or may not be in the release notes, but officially that is the firmware version that you need to be able to use that. So I know a lot of people have been receiving them. I've seen plenty of my friends here locally have ordered them and got them. Our friend Jeff Leach just ordered his and got his too. So they're all waiting on the software update. So my understanding is that it's starting to roll out right now.
Yeah, somebody posted a YouTube video, I want to say in the last 24 hours, demonstrating it, and it took 2 tries. The first CHAdeMO charger didn't want to know. The second one did. They were only getting 24 kilowatts, but it was operating. So they're out there and they're working.
The one thing to remember with CHAdeMO, Tesla's CHAdeMO adapter is limited to 50 kilowatt. So even though you can go to some of these other chargers out there that have the dual cables where you have CHAdeMO on one side and CCS on the other side, and they might be listed as 110 kilowatt, 120 kilowatt. The maximum you're ever going to get out of the adapter is 50. Actually, because of losses and stuff, it's more like 48 tops. I've used mine on a few occasions. I never got more than about 36 on mine. So it's great in a pinch if you're out in the boonies and you don't have a supercharger and you want something faster than level 2, but don't expect supercharging levels with this thing. I'll say it again. I think we're much better off with a CCS adapter, much like what they offer in Europe for the S and the X. Be cheaper. So until that happens, do what you need to do. If you need to with CHAdeMO, I know Ian for you would open up lots of opportunities right now.
Yeah.
But my personal opinion, I would much prefer to have CCS because over in Europe, Model 3 supports. Bjorn did videos on it. Supports 120 kilowatt. Although he's had problems with some other adapters out there. So there's some handshaking going on, and I don't think it's completely sorted out yet. So. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. It's been a good one, as usual. Oh, Ian has one more.
I was bad. I put it on the topic side. I should have transferred it over to the question side. But
okay.
We had...
yes. Let's talk about this.
Yes. Serge reached out to me and asked about... he has what we sort of came up with a term for, lack of spare anxiety. It sort of ties into the fact the car doesn't have run flats. So he's like, what do I do? I'm really freaking out. I'm going on a long trip. Like, how much do I have to worry about this, not having a spare in the car? And what are the best solutions? And my number one go-to personally, my preference is to bring along a plug kit. You can buy these things, at any auto parts store. Basically, it's just what looks like some sort of a dental instrument. There's sort of like a little roughing file that you poke in. You pull out the debris, whatever, and you basically insert what looks like a waxy little piece of cord into the tire, and that'll plug it temporarily. And then if you have a portable compressor, you can just reinflate the tire. The nice thing about doing it that way is it doesn't introduce any goo into the tire. So it makes it much easier to repair the tire permanently when you get a chance to. The second option would be to purchase. Tesla makes a beautiful little repair kit, and I was
just about to mention I have it. However, don't use the goo if you have standard stock Tesla tires with the foam insert. Very bad juju.
That's what I got.
Yeah, well, a lot of us do. I mean, anybody who's got the 18-inch Michelin on their Model 3 or the 19-inch Conti, you have the foam interior. Now, here's the thing. I reached out to both companies last year to get their opinion on this because goo and foam sound like a messy mix, don't they? And Continental was straight up, if you use our kit, there's no problem. So of course. Yes, of course. Continental makes their own beautiful little kit that's got the Continental goo and it's got a little Continental inflator kit. So if you use theirs with the Conti tire, they will 100% guarantee the result. So no problem there. Michelin was much more evasive. They wouldn't say no, but they wouldn't say yes. They were kind of like, well, we don't recommend it. But that's why I recommend buying the Tesla kit, because Tesla sells this kit for all of their vehicles. So regardless of which model of tire or which model of Tesla you drive, they say it's compatible with all of them. And the important thing is it's also compatible with the ABS sensors. So if anything happens to your ABS sensor and you've used the Tesla kit, well, I think it would be on them. Exactly. So that's why I'm very comfortable recommending the Tesla kit. It should work with all their tires. That's what they're claiming.
I have it in my car, knock on wood, never have to use it. But I do have it.
Well, it is a rare thing. That's the beauty of modern tire design is like we've come so far in puncture resistance that these things are few and far between. But you really don't want to have it happen when you're in the middle of nowhere, do you?
Talk to Ryan McCaffrey about puncture resistance.
Yeah. And it always happens in the worst place at like 2 a.m. in a pouring rainstorm.
Poor guy. He's had so many nails in his tires and screws.
The other thing, too, is don't forget the car comes with roadside assistance. So if you do need, if time isn't so critical, call them up and they'll find you. And the nice thing now is most of the roadside assistance vehicles have spare wheels and tires with them, especially if they know they're going out on a call and they know that you've got, the 18-inch Model 3 or whatever it is. They're going to make sure to bring the correct spare with them, and that'll get you going. You don't even have to do the work, which is nice. So
good. Well, thanks for answering that. Well, look, we've come to the end of the show. It's time to bugger out of here. Look, I'm going to give Eric the opportunity to plug whatever you want. Where do people find you on the internet? They want to have a chit-chat with you, Eric, and talk.
Well, you guys can find me right down here at the Twitter handle ECFix. It's right there. You can see it. Well, if you can't see it because you're on the podcast, but if you're listening to us, it's just go to twitter.com/ECFix, ECFIX. I also want to thank all of our new show listeners, our sponsors, Patreon supporters, everyone. You guys really make the show what it is. We are enamored with our followers. Thank you so much for all the comments, the feedback, the questions, the whole thing. We do this show because of you. So keep doing the great work that you do to allow us to keep doing what we do. So thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Ian, you're next. Where can people find you on the internet?
Okay, I'm ripping off Eric's gig now. For all you YouTube watchers, it's there. It's Ian.
It's over here.
At Ian Velko is where you'll find me on Twitter. And you can also find me at Tesla Owners Online at the forum. The handle is Mad Hungarian. If you have any wheel or tire specific questions, or if you think I might add value somewhere else, hey, what the hell? It's your nickel. Give it a whirl. I'm happy to try and come up with an answer. So just look for Mad Hungarian there and I will appear. And finally, if you're looking for something in Tesla wear, you can go to teespring.com, T-E-E-Spring, all one word, .com, and look up Mad Hungarian's Evolve wear. And there you will find the old classic Evolve shirts as well as the new Weapons of Mass Adoption shirts. And
where's your Model Y shirt?
I promised that for this week.
You promised.
I knew you were going to call me out on that. Oh, man, it's been... Up until the rocker panel smash, life was fairly normal, but that consumed my life this week, so I apologize. But we're days away. I work on Elon time. What can I tell you?
It's Ian time.
Yes, it's Ian time, which is worse than Elon time.
Again, link to his Teespring wear will be in the podcast and the video description, so you guys can go check it out. We love our shirts. We wear them all the time, except I'm feeling a little southern today. I'm wearing my Aruba shirt. All right, so my turn? My turn. No?
Go, not go. Go.
Okay. Well, as usual, if you want to have a little chit-chat with me, I'm very active on Twitter. The handle's Model 3 Owners. Check out the forum, Tesla Owners Online. My handle there is Trev P. And I want to say a big thank you to our Patreon sponsors. Those guys really keep the show going, as well as our podcast sponsors, the great guys at Fine Lab Ceramic Coatings, Dula Band Insurance. If you're in Ontario, these guys have really good rates for Teslas. And, of course, our great friends at Evanex who make fantastic Tesla accessories. That's it for this show, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for listening, no matter where you happen to be. And we'll see you next time. See you guys.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Aloha means goodbye.